Hey, there we go. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you
All
hear me?
right.
Steven, can you hear me?
Oop, hold on. I'm having sound issues, of course. There we go. I say something, Mike.
Uh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. That's the last
All right.
technology issues there. This whole platform's working great. Let me tell you. I say blaming it on somebody else.
Sound good?
That's probably my fault. Yeah, so great.
All right.
Alrighty, well, let's give it a couple minutes there to get people in here. But how are you doing today, Mike?
I'm excellent. Got a bit of the butterflies, but I'm ready to rock and roll.
Oh, don't worry about that. We're just gonna have a conversation. All these other people here are just weird voyeurs listening in. Just
All
don't pay
right.
them any mind.
That's right.
Alrighty, let's give it a
Got
couple
over a
minutes there
cold.
to.
Like I said, just got over a cold. So if I pause for a second, I might be in a coughing fit, but just bear with me.
Oh, that's no problem. If I need to fill space, I can always do that. But um,
All right.
why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome everybody to the second Orchestrator Spotlight. I'm Stephen Gee with LivePeer, also known as Swiggy on Discord and other places. And today we have Mike Supper, who is an orchestrator on the LivePeer network.
Hey, everyone.
Round of applause, thank you. So just like I said, we're just gonna have a sit here, have a conversation, and kind of learn a little bit about you. So to start off, why don't you just give yourself a quick, little more full introduction than just
Sure. Hey, I'm Mike Zuper. So as he said, Steven said, I'm a orchestrator for LivePeer. But in my day job, in my day identity, I'm a father. I'm married. I have three kids. I think in general, I do software development for my career. During the day, I'm a senior software architect by title, but I've been a long time developer. I've been developing on the internet systems for, it seems like forever, but late 90s, all of 2000s until today. So I've seen the web 1, the web 2, and now the web 3 evolutions happen real time. So kind of date myself a little bit, but um, I'm an entrepreneur. I like to invest in real estate. I started several companies. Just like to. I'm a serial entrepreneur on the side. So I got a main job, and I pretty much just tinker and toy with technology and companies as a hobby.
Awesome. Well, that gives me a great intro into my first question. So you said you've seen Web one, Web two, worked on all now Web three. So what got you interested in Web three specifically?
Um, well, it's kind of funny. A former boss of mine, he just, it was quite a while now. That's in 2017. He came by talking about this crazy thing called Bitcoin, and he's really pumped about this new thing called Ethereum coming out, and all these different topics, and it just kind of caught me surprised because it's one of those things where I saw the internet evolution happen, where everybody was naysaying the internet, and then all of a sudden here's this new thing coming out, this crypto stuff, and obviously Ponzi schemes and all that. You heard the stuff, but I mean, literally, it fascinated me that there was a world in which I could see in my lifetime another evolution of technology. I mean, it seems to be happening at such a fast pace now that to me it was just like I'm gonna start looking around. I'm a tinkerer, so I wanted to get in there and touch it and see what it does.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. Like the evolution has been really rapid, which I guess is just how the internet connecting everybody makes uh, technology be able to accelerate. And I think there's like a law or something, Moore's law, or is that the Nazi law? Anyway,
No, Moore's law is definitely the computing power is going to increase, but that law is kind of tapered off a little bit. But you're right, though. This technology just keeps getting faster
yeah.
and faster, and it seems like the desire for it goes higher and higher. I think new people are looking for, more complex problems, more distributed problems across the globe. So it seems like the demand is there, and the technology and the infrastructure is in place. So people are now really trying to exploit it even further. And I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, technology just begets more technology, as it were.
That's right.
Um, okay, so that's the interest in Web3 overall. So how did you go from Web3, Bitcoin, Ethereum as a starting point to LivePeer specifically? Like, what drew you to this Web3
Yeah.
infra kind of thing?
Yeah. And actually, it was, probably when I first heard about, Web3 in 2017, it took me a couple of years before I actually started like building and doing things. So it was like, um, I heard about it, read about it. At first I kind of dismissed it, but I started hearing a lot more, started to look at it. Then I wanted to start mining something. And this was, maybe in 2021. So I wanted to mine, and I thought at that point it was like, man, maybe I kind of missed the boat. Like Ethereum's moving over to, the proof of work and or sorry, proof of stake, and ETH2 coming out. Like maybe that stuff's not my thing. So I was like, well, what can I start building on? So I looked at a bunch of protocols, and you know, the one that just hit me was, and I can hear Eric speaking now. 80% of all internet traffic's video, and it was like, oh, oh, that's right, live peer video. And it's like, hey, I'm watching YouTube right now. So like, it just all kind of like made a lot of sense to me. And then I come across some of the work from Titan's node, where he's running he's got the video and his big eyes thinking about how much money he can make. And I just said, you know what, I can set this up. And I played around with it. I had a little PC at home that had a good GPU in it from my former days of video games, and I figured, hey, let me fire it up and see what it does, and that's how I got started.
That's really cool. Yeah, I know what you mean about Eric Tank CTO, talking about
That's right.
the 80% of his video. I know me, same thing. I was looking at a bunch of protocols before I started working with LivePeer, and seeing that, I was like, oh, okay, this seems like really useful and has a huge addressable market, and it seems like a thing I would like to exist and to continue to exist.
And more importantly, I didn't have to be a finance expert. You start looking at DeFi and you're talking about your head spinning, man. That stuff is like deep. But yeah, I like that stuff too. But I think this is more grounded in real world stuff, like real utility.
I used to say that if I couldn't explain uh, what a company, what a protocol was doing to my parents, that I shouldn't be working there. I tried to explain life here to them tons of times, and they're still just like, I don't get it. I'm like, oh God, it's not that hard. So I've retired from one, but as long as I can explain it confidently myself, then I'm like, okay, I'm fine. And a lot of these.
Yeah, I can explain video streaming. I think a lot of folks, especially my kids' generation, YouTube and streaming and pixels, like they get it.
Oh yeah, that is for sure. So it sounds like whenever you first got interested, you used a bunch of Titans videos to get started, or what was your kind of like setup? Did you go through the one of the community pools first, or did you just dive right in?
Well, yeah, I did a lot of reading. I mean, I like to read and dig in. So I was reading the docs, online, how to set it up. And I saw the YouTube videos, and then, just kind of, I was poking around in the Discord. So I was kind of just lurking for a little bit there. But once I actually got the rig set up, it was just a matter of, just really getting the accounts, getting everything set up. But I went through the docs primarily. The video was like the inspiration to say, like, wow, like looking at the steps, this is pretty straightforward. And then he had a little, section on some of the economics, like, I knew it wasn't ETH mining, but I knew what could it be. And so I figured it was simple enough, it was straightforward. And my expertise is DevOps, infrastructure, deployments, software development. Like, and when we look at Go software in live here, they got it's open source. So I can jump in and start coding. But then I looked at some of the, the infrastructure and the DevOps pieces, and I saw that it was rather light there, and then I could have an immediate impact on the community by jumping in, right? So, and I felt like, hey, this is a place I can call home, you know what I mean? In terms of getting in there and building up some friends and trying to, you know, just participate.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've noticed too. It's the community is really, and I find this over Web3 overall, but especially in live peer and some of these more kind of let's build useful stuff communities. The communities are really warm and welcoming and helpful and just chill in a really friendly way.
Yeah, no doubt. Like friends, somebody you want to go have a beer with. But again, not just that, like these guys are motivated. Like folks are trying to accomplish things. They got goals. So it's not like, just hanging out watching a football game. Like we're in here, we're motivated, so if you're motivated and you're like minds, you can connect and really make some stuff happen. And I think a lot of the guys kind of brought me in that way. And then ultimately it just kind of anecdotally they call me tidal wave just because of the amount of information I was splashing on everybody when I jumped into the community. So
I love that. That's
yeah, well, that's my icon now too on Discord. I change it every once in a while, but currently I'm feeling like a tidal wave.
I
So
love it. So how'd you get to note on names here? Because that would have been a great one too. How'd you get to? Is it Zodap? Do you pronounce it like that?
yeah, XODE. It was just one of those things where I'm really horrible with names, and I just wanted something that like rolled off the tongue real well, and it was unique. And I spent a lot of time in e-commerce in my days. Like I worked on Xerox website, NFL, like all these like major sites. And one of the things that I've learned in my days is SEO and how to optimize for search, and that was a term and a phrase that it's unique and it stands on its own. So like just being able to be found by Zodap, or just looking at that word. So it was rather unique in that rolled off the tongue, and here we are. It's kind of stuck with me.
I appreciate that. Having done a lot of SEO myself, yeah, having something that's not too confusing as head. I mean, most people can figure out the XC thing, and then
That's right. Well, we'll see how that goes.
wow, fair. But unique is certainly helpful. But
That's right.
so with regard to your nodes, like performance, all of the technical stuff, I say showing that I'm very technical myself. um, so how do you manage it? And are you just are your nodes distributed now as well?
Yeah, so that was one of the things when I first joined was like, I started out small, but I had real, dreams of scaling quickly, and I think I used the words quote, live peer at scale, right? Enterprise scale, building out something that is robust and that large organizations can get in there and say, you know what, I have enough demand that I can bring that to this network. And I wanted to be the guy to say, you don't need to worry about, GPUs that are busy with video games or even ETH mining, right? We're here to be enterprise scale. We want the top of the class, right? Where no downtime, no outages, 99.98% uptime, just make sure that that's there from a networking perspective, because you can't bring customers in if you're taking outages or you're having drop streams and segments. So yes, I initially started out small just to test the water, but I went to the opposite end. I went like AWS, like, Google Cloud, massive like scaling, elasticity, and all these things to build it out right away. And what I found is, it's a work in progress. It's not 100%, but the underpinnings are there, and it looks like the demand is continuing to grow. So we scaled back from all of that crazy stuff, auto scaling and auto provisioning. We brought it down to something a little more manageable for the current demand, but we have that capability to elastically grow it based on the demand quickly. So, and it goes to some of the technology that we use. I mean, when I joined, everyone was installing their servers manually. They had, download their binaries, get everything running. But what I brought to the table was, like I said, enterprise scale. Let's get Docker involved. Let's get automation. Let's get when you have multi nodes running, how do you get all of those nodes deployed and provisioned without having to log into each one separately? How to manage each software version separately. So with Docker, and in fact, I had put a couple grants out and published some, stuff that shared all of this stuff with the community. So, we have there's a technology called Portainer, which sits on top of Docker and gives you like a nice UI, but it's a central dashboard that you can use to like deploy latest versions, or if you want to deploy it to your New York node or your European node, or whatever the nodes are, you have these technologies and tools and capabilities that you can use to manage that without having to jump through a lot of hoops. And I think that's probably where my fingerprint has been on the community so far. But I am geo located. I have several nodes in multiple continents, or all the continents except for the ice regions. But
That's really good. I love that as a strategy. I mean, granted, that's as somebody who spends a lot of time thinking and working to bring demand to the network, of course. So love hearing that the elasticity of some of our highest performing, most reliable orchestrators is there. But it's also just a smart way to go about it.
right, I mean, that's the default for me, right? As part of my job, I've been ingrained in years in doing this kind of stuff. So like, I wouldn't go in it at any other way. Top of the mind is security, availability, all the abilities that you would need to run a production system. And we're looking at enterprise grade.
Yeah. So, and you brought up grants. So I know you're involved in a couple grants right now, but before we go into those, what are some of the other grants you've done in the past, just to give people an idea of kind of what the grants program can be?
Yeah, no, grants program's awesome. At first there were a couple other folks that had some grants out there, and I was just looking for a way to get in. So Night Node, one of the other orchestrators, had a grant for getting basic instructions for Windows, Linux, and then he had a Docker section. So I figured, let me go in there and put that in. So I helped him with the Docker. So if he wanted to just use Docker as a entry level person getting started, there's a lot of good resources that we created from a grants perspective there. And then I think some of the other members of the team, like Authority Null's big one for me. We sat together and looked at, education and getting started is great, but there's still, a lot more beneath the surface with LivePeer. And we had a couple of grants where we started like what we were calling like this intermediate education, where it was more than just how to get a single node up and running to see if you can perform. Like if you wanted to run in geo locations, if you wanted to use Portainer, Docker. So we had a grant we put out there for running at scale. We called it Portainer, Docker, and LivePeer at scale. And we created some forum posts on LivePeer's forum that walked you through it. We created videos. We posted it on LensTube. I mean, we really went like all out trying to not only just build it, we live streamed it through LivePeer Studio. So like everything that we were doing, we're building out in public. I mean, I think the last one that we worked on that I thought was really cool was one that we called the Cloudflare RPC Worker. And what that was is like edge compute, but for Arbitrum RPC services. So over the summer, and again, this is one of those things where when these Web3 communities, things change and evolve quick, right? And one of the things that was a thorn in a lot of people's sides was RPC services through Arbitrum. Like they were growing and scaling, but they were having some issues. So over the summer, one of the things I did was we built an RPC service that orchestrators can use, but we put this grant together where folks can say, let me deploy an edge worker and allow it to load balance between a variety of RPC services. So folks that didn't want to pay for Infura or Alchemy, or they didn't want to really leverage these inscriptions because they're expensive. And for what we were doing in LivePeer, it didn't justify the cost. So we came up with a way that using this RPC worker setup, and it's out there in the grants and documented, as I said, but what it did was it allowed folks to load balance between a bunch of free providers so that they could keep their orchestrators up and running with zero cost, or low cost, I should say. I think it was Cloudflare has a $5 a month worker fee just to use the service. AWS Lambdas, they all have similar kind of services, but it gave like this edge compute for the RPCs and provided a lot better latency. Like a lot of folks leveraged this when we started, but then they switched to Nitro in September at the end of August, and Nitro nodes now are super fast and a lot better than they used to be. So I think the worker one evolves, but even in that grant, we said, we are going to keep up educating the live peer community as the community evolves. So if Nitro comes out, we'll be talking about Nitro. If XYZ comes out, we'll be talking about those things. And I think if Discord's asking for it, if there's a problem in live peer somewhere, you'll see XODE, Authority Null, Papa Bear. These guys are going to be pumping out Speedy Bird. We're pumping out grants to keep people educated and on the know.
Yeah, no, so that's the simple scalable serverless average from RPC, right? I believe.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, yes, if anybody wants to go look at any of these, you can go to the GitHub, Library's GitHub under the grant program. So that still looks like it's open, so it's got something that's still to be done or something.
Yeah, there's some. I think the grants GitHub still the open issue, but I think all of those have been closed out. We should probably go close those out, but they're definitely all live, wrapped up. I think all the videos and all the materials are all still out there for folks. There's some GitHub repos where I have some samples that folks can go download and learn all about it. One of the other things I wanted to mention was we're not just doing grants too. Like there's like a Discord bot that I worked on. And like post like now there's a Discord bot that prints out payment information today to LivePeer, but I was tinkering around and I wanted to see if I could do something myself. And I created a website called livepeer.tools, and you can kind of like go look at the orchestrator list there. You can look at some payout charts. And I saw some folks asking for some more payment data on there and other event data. So kind of like a organic live peer explorer, but just not a little different, like a little twist on it. So but we're building all kinds of stuff, man. We got a lot of stuff in the works as well. So I think if you're not staked with XODE, you might want to take a look, because we're going to be the ones growing the pie, right? We're bringing more customers in. We're going to try to set up broadcasters. We got big plans for the future as we start to look at how to leverage LivePeer as a brick of multiple bricks in an ecosystem, so we can build a wall of software and services.
Awesome. Well, so that's great. Let's go segue to my second last question. I'm going to give you the opportunity to influence the future of LivePeer. Very important people are listening, or not. Who knows? But and I want you to say, what do you want to see from the LivePeer network in the future? Where do you think it should go? What do you think should be created? Do you think would be really awesome?
I guess that to me, it's pretty straightforward. I think, you just keep being a building block, right? And facilitating those builders. Because I think in the bear markets today, but, building and continue to have momentum is important. I think the other part is maybe looking beyond just video, looking at, GPU compute in general, AI, some of these other kind of cool projects, looking around, leveraging the GPU in more context. I think LivePeer can possibly tap in there. And I think, for my selfish things, like I'd like to see a protocol client other than Go, maybe a JavaScript or a Rust library, or even running it in like a LivePeer broadcaster or even an orchestrator transcoder running in the browser and using like WebAssembly. Some of these kind of like crazy thoughts that people are having today, where you're looking at running, database servers in the browser and all kinds of stuff. So I think getting LivePeer maybe more portable across runtime environments. And then I think the last greedy part would be like, the broadcaster integration with some of the other media servers like Owncast, Ant Media, or like Media Express from Media Networks. Like getting more of these integrations where people that are already using these tools and technologies can just plug in and be Web3 enabled and may not even know about it. They just leverage it because it's a better service and it's more cost effective for them. So these are some of the things that at least I was thinking.
I know there's definitely been some we discussed other uses for the GPU compute power, and yeah, I love the idea of more use cases for people get on Web3 and don't even realize it. I mean, the Reddit NFTs are a great example of a bunch of people getting on there and either not knowing or not caring after a certain point. And I think more.
Well, I think for me though, that's a critical point, right? Like for me, I think it's more today to be that on ramp. Like I think a company like XODE, an orchestrator like XODE, could be more of an on ramp for people that are not necessarily Web3 at all. Like being able to bridge the gap, but be fluid enough and agile and nimble enough to keep up with the evolution. And then maybe at one point when you know identities and wallet UX and all this stuff gets solved, that now you can then open it up to everybody, because then it's more prime time. But I think today there's still, unless you're a techno geek, and I even struggle sometimes with some of these integrations and some of the clunkiness with it. But that's I don't remember if you remember Internet Explorer 1.0 or 2.0. Ooh, you talking about clunky, man? That stuff was horrible. So like the Internet 1.0 was real clunky and bad. I don't think many folks know that. I think a lot of folks in the crowd might, depending on how old you are, but again, those days were rough. And again, it was the same, stuff. Like no one's gonna go buy something on the internet. I'm gonna go to the store and buy it. Like Radio Shack gone, Circuit City gone, like Toys R Us gone, like all these companies American companies that we used to like that were staples in purchasing are gone now. And I think banks and real estate brokers and a lot of these other institutions are gonna be gone as well as we start to look to the future.
Yeah, and it's all they're going to have to evolve. It's definitely the ones
evolve.
Who did
that's right.
Radio Shack. I guess Radio Shack is a crypto company now. So hey.
Yeah, that's right. Then they pivot again. Hey, applaud Radio Shack. They gone from this stuff to that. So hey, I can't knock them, but it's kind of weird, knowing Radio Shack.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like 90s kids would be like, what? Great. Then, before we shut off, since we've got a couple minutes here, any final thoughts, ideas, questions, topics, funny jokes?
No, not really. Again, I think at the end of the day, I'm glad to participate, and I think if you're looking for innovation, if you're looking for keeping up with the latest stuff, check us out in Discord, and you follow me on Twitter. I think we're definitely building stuff, and we're out here. And again, for me, it's kind of different because I used to be working in closed environments. So like now I'm out here in public. I got my name's out there. I'm out on Twitter with my name. I'm out. Got websites. And just trying to be out there and get involved. And I think it's fun. So come on down, check us out, man. We're in Discord and hit us up. We'll definitely let you know what's going on. See how you can get involved.
Absolutely. Then yeah, if anybody wants to learn a little bit more about Mike Super, XODE, you can go to explorer.livepeer.org as one of the live orchestrators. He is, of course, listed there, so you can learn a little bit more and potentially stake with XODE there. I also will repeat, highly suggest joining the LivePeer Discord if you're not there already. Some of the best human beings around talking about cool technology stuff. So highly suggest. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me today, Mike.
Hey, Steven, I appreciate it, man. I'll see you in Discord. And
Absolutely, you too. Cheers.
All right, thanks, everyone.